Behind the Shades.
So I am a holistic health coach. I'm certified as a personal trainer, yoga teacher, and nutrition coach. And I work with clients who are working full time but struggling with digestive issues. Digestive issues can really hold people back from doing things like running a business or working full time. And so I had these issues many years ago, and I know how much of an impact these kind of struggles can stop you from in your career or with your work or with your life in general. And so knowing that, I felt like it was the next step in my life to help teach other people how they could take care of their health in a holistic way that's going to help them feel better and be able to do the things that they want to do in their life. As for where you can find me, I hang out a lot on Instagram. My handle is at Healing with Jennifer. And you can also find me on my website, which is healingwithjennifer.ca.
Perfect. So I know these days, health is so important because when we look around the world, a lot of people are struggling, not only mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So, what are some of the things that you have come in contact with over, let's say, the last 6 to 9 months in your experiences?
A lot of my own personal experience or with the people that I help or okay. With my own personal experience, I have struggled with running a business and putting my own health habits aside. Last year was a perfect example of this. I stopped going to the gym. I wasn't really caring about making food for myself that was healthy. I usually am a planner, so I usually plan these things. Last year, I can tell you I was not doing that, and work was coming before all of the things that I need to do to make sure that I feel my best self. And I think it's such a common thing with running a business or working full time is that there's always that to do list and we can check everything off and there's always going to be like five more things. And so it's hard to set those boundaries to be able to say, no, I need to stop this. This can get done tomorrow. It's not a super high priority task that needs to be done this instant. And so it was at the end of last year where I was doing some reflection and I realized, wow, I've really put I'm teaching health to other people, to my clients, yet I have been not following my own protocols. I've been skipping the gym. I've lost a lot of weight, and not in a good way, more of like I lost a lot of muscle mass. And then I also wasn't eating the best, so my digestion was off. And so I had that wake up moment where I realized I'm not following my own advice. And so that's when I kind of shook myself and said, hey, let's stop this. And I set the intentions for this year to not do that. So I have been really good with my workouts, eating right, and getting back connected with cooking. I really love to cook. And so I really focus on all three of those areas. And I'm really proud of where I've come. And now that I am following my own advice and being that source of inspiration for the people I work with and doing the own work that I preach kind of thing.
I remember for me during the lockdowns, for those who remember it, all those years ago, finding a healthy alternative to working out at the gym was a little bit of a struggle for me. And we came up with this joke, how me, my doctor and I, we called it the quarantine 15, meaning that every single person gained 15 pounds or 15% of body fat. And we just like blew up, right? We all became husky and kind of more like the Michelin man or the Pillsbury Doughboy a little bit there. But one thing that I did find is that I took up some things that actually were helpful to me. So I learned how to cook. By all means, I'm not like Gordon Ramsay or a chef or anything, but I can cook to survive, where before I couldn't cook to survive on what I was eating. So when you look back and you realize that some of these things that you love doing or you were doing, you're not necessarily doing them as often as before. Was that transition getting back into it difficult for you, or is it something that you're accustomed because of your past experiences?
It was maybe a week or two of some challenges as to figuring out the right routine that was going to work with my new way of living and like working from home and running my business. And so it did take a little bit of trial and error just to figure out what is the best schedule that's going to work for me, that I'm going to be consistent with. And once I figured that out, it was really, really easy to get back on the horse and just keep going. And I think it's really important to see that. And, working with clients, they'll often get really down and hard on themselves when they fall off track. And I always, always tell them that it doesn't matter if you fall off track. What matters that is that you get back on the horse really quickly so that you're not spending so much time falling off track, and that you're able to get back to where you were a lot faster. And that is where the success lies, is the faster you're able to get back on track. And so I think it is important to know that if you do fall off track, it doesn't mean you're failing at what you're doing, but it is showing you that, you've fallen out of alignment with what you want to do, but you have the tools inside of you to get back to where you were prior to when you fell off key and track.
And when you're working with your clients and the people you come in contact with, what are some of the obstacles that are common that prevents them from getting back on track?
Number one thing, I would say their own selves. They get in their way. The mind is such a powerful thing, and I can see it with a lot of my clients where they'll tell themselves those stories. There's not enough time in my day, or I'm too busy, or I'm not a good cook, or eating healthy is a challenge. And so the mind often plays this role as this big thing that stands in the way of where you are now and where you want to go. And it's so easy to get swept up in it and to start listening to those stories and believe that they're true, when that's not the case. And that's why I think it is powerful to work with a coach. And speaking of my own personal experience, because I work with coaches too, and they'll be able to see that this is just a story, and they'll be able to call you out on it. And then you're able to get going and prove to yourself that this isn't true, and that you can create some time, and you just need to do a little bit of planning to get to where you want to go.
I know for me, eating, because I don't eat meat, I don't know if I shared that the last time, but I'm a pescatarian. I used to be a vegan. And I look at some of these, one of my friends, she shared the story with me where she's like, Terrain, because of the grocery prices, I only can afford to eat chicken once every 2 weeks. Not because, right? Because she wants to, just because of the climate of the world. And I look at some of the people who are trying to maintain their physical health, who are trying to get back on track, as you said. And I agree. One of the main reasons is we get in our own way. We say that, well, I don't have the time, I don't have to do this. And then we either sit on the sofa or we do something that is not requiring a lot of movement. Do you find that as people are overcoming some of the mental blocks, they need that quote unquote kick in the pants to actually get there?
Yeah, and I often hear from clients when I do call them out that they're happy, and they'll be like, this is why I love working with you, is because you're able to see the things that I can't see, and then you're able to call me out on it. And it does help them get that fire under their butt to keep moving. And I think it's important too to recognize that it's normal for motivation to fall off, and normal to get stuck in that pattern and that way of thinking. And we're humans, and that's going to happen. But that's the beauty of reconnecting with your why behind why you're doing what you're doing. And then that's usually what can really, really fire someone up to continue moving forward and get them off the couch. 100%.
Take us through your business, Jennifer. You mentioned earlier on that you're finding that balance between not only your own health, but maintaining your health as well as running the business and maintaining the health as others. So how do you find your balance between the two? Because there's so many people who maybe want to start their own business, but they don't have the time, they don't have the drive, and they feel that they're burning the candle at both ends. So how do you find your balance?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is setting boundaries for your health and your work schedule, especially if you're starting your own business. At the beginning, I think it's important to know that you don't need to have that full-time schedule to make a business work. You can set aside those chunks of time throughout your week and commit to them. And even if you're working full-time somewhere else while you're trying to build your business, you can still do that, but in a way that's not going to make you feel like you're burning the candle at both ends. And so for me, the biggest thing that's helped me is dedicating which days are my workout days and making that a non-negotiable. So just like I would treat working on my business or an important meeting or an appointment with my client, I'm going to make sure that those gym workouts that those aren't getting skipped. Those are just as important as all the other stuff, because if I'm not doing those things, I'm not going to show up as my best self, and I'm not going to run my business the best way that I could. And so that's something I did not really notice a year ago, and I was thinking, oh no, it's more important to get my business where I want it to go. And so I sacrifice all those things when it should have been that right balance, where I was looking at taking care of my health as the foundation for running my business and being successful with taking it to the next level. And so if there is anyone that is running a business or thinking about starting one and doesn't want to burn the candles at both ends, make sure you put those foundations in place right off the bat or right now, so that you can show up as that best version of yourself and be productive and not burn out.
What was harder for you to do? Create the boundaries, enforce them, or maintain them, and why?
It was really easy for me to create the boundaries. It wasn't always easy to keep up with it, because there's that voice inside my head being like, oh no, business, there's something to do, just keep going, just keep going. And so sometimes I will think work is more important and like keep typing or like keep reaching out to people, and I'm like, no, I should be on my way to the gym right now. So I think I still can get swept up in all the work that goes behind running a business. And so I think I just have to kind of check in with myself, and I'll be like, hey, wait, no, we're going back to old habits here. So I think it's important to have the awareness as to, what are the habits you want to build and what are those habits that prevent you from doing that, and how to recognize when you're on one side versus the other, and then not placing judgment on yourself, but just kind of recognizing, oh yeah, that's the old way. We got to go back to the new way. Get in the car. Let's go. Close the computer down.
I know for me, it was hard for me to determine what type of balance and what I wanted that balance to look like. And I'll give you an example. When I first started out, um, it was just my cell phone, a tripod, and good weather. So anytime I checked the weather and it was sunny outside, I knew that I had to do an interview. So I'd call up Jennifer, like, Jennifer, we got to film today. We can't film any other day, because if it rains, it snows, I couldn't do it. But what I found was, as to your point, I was dedicating so much time where there are certain things I was forgetting to do. I was forgetting to have 3 meals a day. I was forgetting to go for my walks. I was forgetting to go to the gym. I was forgetting to interact with people that I want to interact with. And you always hear, at least it's always put into your face, especially online, where when you start something that you're going to own, they say that 12 hours, 14-hour days, like they just make up these shifts, and you're like, oh my God, I'm only going to sleep for 2 hours. I'm only going to see my wife or my husband for an hour, and I'm never going to eat. But if you can figure it out, and ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, Google Calendar became like my wife. Wherever I go, Google Calendar follows me, right? So I say that because I didn't have the initial health struggles that you did when you first started, but I was still finding it somewhat difficult to navigate and maintain. As you look back, Jennifer, of all that you went through, did you know that you were always going to be in this position, or was there some doubt given everything that you've gone through in your past?
I wouldn't say that there was any doubt, but I know I can be hard on myself. So when I do resort to things like, skipping workouts or eating something that's not the best for me, I can place a little bit of not judgment, but I can be kind of harsh on myself as to like, hey, you are supposed to be helping someone. You shouldn't be doing these things. You're not living your truth. You're not in alignment. What if someone knew this? Like, what if your clients knew you're doing this, right? But at the same time, I think it's important to be open about this kind of the kind of struggles that come with this, because then it's more relatable. And I think there is some power in showing clients that, hey, I struggle with this too, because coaches are almost the most I'm trying to think of how I want to articulate this. When coaches are doing the work and in the trenches with you, it becomes a lot more relatable, and you can see, oh wow, they're doing that too. They're living it, they're breathing it. So the trust is just opened up, and then clients aren't as hard on themselves when they fall off track, because they're like, well, Jennifer falls off track too. And of course, I don't want to fall off track all the time, but hey, she knows how we can get out of this faster, right? So I think there is some beauty in falling off track and being open about that with my clients, because again, they'll feel a little bit more connected and they won't feel like I'm judging them for when they fall off track.
Is that human side something that you believe benefits the overall experience between the coach and the client?
100%. Again, it creates that know, like, and trust, where it's like, okay, well, Jennifer isn't gonna, I won't be afraid to tell Jennifer if I fall off track, because she understands, she's going to be able to relate to that. So because sometimes clients can feel like embarrassed or ashamed of falling off track, and they might not want to share that information. But the more they're able to open up and communicate about those kinds of challenges, the better I'm able to help and support them and help them to continue moving forward. So it definitely does, from both sides, from both the client and the coach. It makes a better connection overall and makes a better experience for the client, for sure.
When I was working with a mentor, and one of the things that they opened up with was they definitely show that human side. They said that I have similar struggles, and they would list them. I think some people get into this idea, especially maybe on the personal trainer side, like at the gym, that they want the person to be like Arnold or Mr. Olympia, right? Where you want this person who's carved out of granite and is the perfection that, or at least the idea of perfection that you want. And I think sometimes, as I work with the women that I work with at the charity of physically and mentally abused women, is there's that relatability. Because I would find, I would argue, and I found that for you to trust someone that maybe doesn't look like you, doesn't walk the type of life that you have, there's going to be some vulnerability there, and you would have to open up. How vulnerable do you get with your clients, and how vulnerable do they get with you during the whole process?
I'm a very open book, so I am really okay with sharing challenges I've gone through. Or if a client comes to me with a concern, I will be like, oh, I've been through something similar, or this just happened to me last week. And this does create that safe environment for clients, and they do open up and they do get vulnerable and they do share whatever else is going on. And I'm always there. I'm there to listen. I'm there to just let them vent it out. And it just as to me, I can see that they feel safe enough to share these kinds of challenges with me. And I think that comes from me being so open about my own challenges, for sure. So it creates that mirror of them being able to say, oh, okay, I can share this information. And again, I do think it does take coaching to another level, because when I'm able to understand what that person is going through on a personal level, I'm able to empathize and I'm able to offer some compassion. And, maybe homework is not done 100% that week. And I'm able to say, oh, okay, well, obviously they have this other issue going on. So let's meet them where they are. And I think it's really important, because as a coach, I'm not that army sergeant where I'm like, oh my gosh, why isn't this done? Why isn't this done? Of course, there is a side of me that can come out with that if it's needed. But I think it's important to recognize that sometimes that might be the last thing a client needs. And so, yeah, I think it is important to be able to use your intuition to recognize when the client needs which coach part of you and when, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I didn't picture you as one to be slamming the doors, get the belt, and slapping the hands of your of your clients, but I'm pretty sure that that may work for some people. And when you're saying that, it made me flash back to when I used to take spin class in the gym. And for those who know spin class, it can be pretty tough. And I remember the woman instructor, she used to yell like, "Get up, get down!" Right? She was very authoritative when she said that. And I'll never forget the day where I don't know if she was joking or not because she had such a serious face where she says that some of you guys are going to die on this bike. And it was so shocking because as like a coach who's trying to coach people through this was like years ago, but as a coach who's trying to coach people through trauma, if you were to say something like that, they might get triggered, right? They might relapse into the situation that they're trying to escape from. And I know that you help them through the personal development piece as well. Is there like a guidebook or a step-by-step process that you help them through, or take us through how you get them to self-identify and to progress during the professional development piece?
Yeah, the first step would be getting clear on their values and what values are the most important to them. And I even do this with myself, is understanding what are those 5 key values that I want to live in alignment with every single day. And sometimes I can fall out of alignment with them, just like my clients. So I think it's important to get clear on what those values are, and then to grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, as to how much you are in alignment with each of those areas. And then you can identify which area you're doing really well in and which area might need a little bit more time and focus from. And then you can increase that number by focusing on that one area, whether it be your health or your integrity or whatever that value is. And then that way you can bring all those values into closer alignment with each other, because that is your core. That makes you you. And those are the areas that are important to you. So we need to first identify what those areas are, and then which area you're not doing the greatest in. And then that way we can nurture that area and increase it, if you know what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. So that would
I
be my
do.
step-by-step process for it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me because I like to visualize that, and I always give the example or try to give the example where it's like a when you're on your journey, you're building the path brick by brick, stone by stone, and each stone on that journey represents something else. It could be childhood trauma, it could be a failed relationship, it could be something that's causing you anxiety, it could be issues at work, it could be something that's so small, but it could also be something that's so grand. And what I wanted to ask you in regards to that is because for me, when some of the clients or the people I speak to in interviews like this, when I pull information from them, I can see a part of me that says, I went through something similar. I remember going through that. How much of yourself do you see in your clients, Jennifer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can looking at my clients right now, I'm seeing each one of them is at a different point on my own journey, and I'm able to say, "Oh, this client, I remember being there. That was when I first started this." And so I'm able to tap into who I was then and what I was struggling with and how I overcame it. And there's other clients who will shine some light on, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was doing that and that was a struggle." So there definitely is some going back into the past and reconnecting with a past version of myself to help my clients. And I never really even noticed that. So thank you for pointing that out, because it's actually like, oh, it's putting a smile on my face, just being able to understand each journey and how it's very unique, but also understanding that I've come a long way on my own journey, but also knowing that I'm able to go back and tap into that point of my life to be able to pull some ideas or concepts or to help someone with what I struggled with then and how I overcame it. So that's really cool. It's I never have thought of it like that. So thanks for pointing it out.
You're welcome. Because I know for me, when I tap into that energy from the past and say, okay, let me bring it forward, it puts me in a state of reflection. And then I begin to tap into my emotions. I begin to understand because I then start to feel what they're feeling. Like, and now their progress, now their aha moments, now their revelation, it becomes like a part of mine, right? And we're both embracing it together for different reasons. But it's definitely a journey that you walk with them, because not only are you walking with them as you guide them along the way, now you're walking with them on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, even, right? So as we close, Jennifer, what's something that you look forward to in your own journey now that you are progressing in the way that you are?
Yeah. So for me, taking the next step would be really, really tuning into my body and my nutrition. I'm not saying my nutrition's bad. I think it's in a good place right now. And, as I said, I'm reconnected with cooking and creating some fun meals. But I do think I can take it another step further. I was actually reading a book I have. It's a book on numerology. I don't know if you're into numerology or have looked down that path, but it's called The Life You're Born to Live. And it has your life path number, and it kind of explains all areas of your life: health, food, wellness, work. It has all those areas. And I was actually reading my own path number today, and it said something about, hey, you should have a low fat diet. And this was something I was thinking about last week. And because I feel my health is good, but I feel like I can take it one step further. So for me, the next thing is exploring what that would look like, and what changes I need to make to see that through. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And as for workouts, just continuing to get stronger. As I mentioned, I had lost a lot of my strength from last year when I didn't go to the gym consistently. So I've really, really worked on that. I've got my strength back, but I want to continue to keep pushing myself to continue getting stronger.